situation where you find that they look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
All right, welcome back. If you're just joining us, it's Daybreak on Trust Television, and it's time we bring you all the headlines from select national newspapers this morning. And as it's a tradition, we will begin with the Daily Trust. And the major story here is staying with the flood alert. States yet to evacuate citizens. Rice farms submerged in Taraba. Clearly, we are beginning to see the effects of that. And residents vacate homes. NIWA deploys boats for rescue operations and build new locations for evacuations. Action aid tells governors. You'll find all of this story on page 5. I guess the game has moved now to the realms of the state governors because these locations are located in the states. The federal government has no territory as such. So if actions have to be taken, they have to be taken by state governors, and it's important that we move to avert the consequence of this looming flood. And to other stories, six die, others injured as building collapses at Borno IDP camp. That is making a bad situation worse. Or how is the language used?
Yeah, from pan to fire, you can say that.
Yeah, you'll find the details of that on page 26. We have this daring photograph on the front page of Tripoli, Libya, where people attend a protest against meeting between the Israeli Foreign Minister Eli Cohen and his Libyan counterpart Nejla Al-Mongoush. The pair met in Italy last week, according to Israeli Foreign Ministry.
Yeah. I mean, listen, the anti-Israeli sentiment in the Arab world is very real, and I don't know what it will take to negotiate some kind of peace deal.
Absolutely. And to the other stories, NNPP faction differs over Kwankwaso's suspension and BOT chairman's expulsion. Algeria proposes 6-month transition to resolve Niger crisis. I'm not sure this is anywhere close to what the juntas are asking. That's they're asking for 6-folds what Algeria is proposing. And Nigerian equity beats 15 years record, hits 66,490 basis points. That's another positive signal on the performance of this government. But that is at the realms of statistics, if you ask the ordinary Nigerians. And to other stories, Wike appears on APC PDP campaign council for Bayelsa governorship poll. That's an interesting development. And Tinubu appoints NDDC board management. Police storm gay marriage venue in Delta. Arrest couple, 65 others. It's amazing how people would dare to flout the law when you know clearly that this action would not be tolerated.
The video. It was very disturbing.
It is. And to think of the manner in which this was done.
And they were young boys, young men,
very, very young,
who are cross-dressing, and I think our social media culture has allowed that to become very popular.
Absolutely.
With your Bobrisky's and every other person. You know, it's just very disturbing.
All right, that's it on the front page of the Daily Trust.
Right, you might not have heard of this newspaper before, but it does exist. The Nature News is up next, so let's take a look at the Nature News, as you can understand. It says environment first. NDDC 6 AFD, that's AFD, GIZ partnership to increase jobs, food production in Niger Delta. So that's good development. Elumelu worries over GE's threat to quit Trans-Afam power project. GE is General Electric, and they're one of the biggest players in that industry. And Tony Elumelu, the businessman, is worried about the threat of quitting Trans-Afam power project. Why is that? Take a look at page 6 on the pages of the Nature newspaper for more details. Federal government moves to avert flood disaster in states and local government areas, which is a direct opposite, so to say, of what we have on the Daily Trust newspaper for today, where they're talking about government's failure to provide a plan for Nigerian citizens in relation to the flooding. It says plans to dredge River Benue complete Dasin Hausa Dam, and the HSA, which is the Hydrological Service, says it is intensifying monitoring of water level. In fact, did say that there is nothing to worry about in regards to the flooding disaster that is being anticipated. And Nigeria, 47 African nations reaffirm commitment to tackle climate change. British-Irish artists, activists, advocates for Ogoni Niger Delta voices at COP28. And Governor Namadi joins Acrolesal, which is an acronym, to campaign for planting of trees in Jigawa. And finally, FIFA pushing for Luis Rubiales to be banned for 15 years over kissing scandal. I think they should just take his job and leave it at that. He did make a mistake, but I don't think he would have done that intentionally at such a global scale.
Clearly, he was on the heat of the moment.
But yeah, no excuse for what he has done, but banning him for 15 years is a bit too much.
All right, we move on to the Daily Times. And the Daily Times this morning is leading with something different. Akwa Ibom shuts Chinese firm making billions from illegal mining. And the question is, who gave them the permission? How did they arrive at
this whole illegal mining thing? It's something that we have to look at. Look at Taraba. You saw there was that video where hundreds of people were, and then people mislabel that video and say, "Oh, Nigerian army captures, insurgents or bandits," but it's actually illegal miners in Taraba, and the government just recently outlawed it.
And we have the case of Zamfara, which has become a completely ungoverned space. And to other stories, the conspicuous picture of the Adamawa State Deputy Governor test driving one of the mass transit buses, I'm sure in response to the hardship that has been brought about by the increase of fuel. We hope.
So Yola to Jimete is going to be cheaper again.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we hope other state governors can take a cue from this. These are the kind of
But I think the most important part of that story is we're buying local.
Absolutely.
And that's local, not in the way we say it in Nigeria, because every time they say local in Nigeria, it's like something substandard. Yeah. No, this is actually good enough. Innocent Motors brought a couple of those buses to Yola.
Absolutely.
I think so more state governors
are remaining in Nigeria. Yeah. Keeping jobs afloat across the country.
Buying it in Naira.
Absolutely, and we're buying in Naira. Moving on to other stories. Stalled Abuja Airport second runway project back on track as WIKE orders payment of 825 million compensation. That's good news if you have been following that development. To other stories, job racketeering reps, ad hoc committee summons, NUC VCs absolve self. In this case, you are both the judge. You reprobate and adjudicate in your own case. Olubadan leaves suspension on palace chief. And Edo goes paperless as archives 7 million documents. That's another way of saving costs in government or in governance. Yes, they do have to evolve. And Standpoint with Inkem prioritizing artificial intelligence for governance. That's it on the front page of the Daily Times.
Yeah, and let's just segue into the conversation, right? Mr. Ben Sherman is back as always with a smile on his face, ever ready to go. Mr. Ben, good morning. Thank you very much for coming as always. It's good to see you once again.
Thank you for always having me.
Right. All right, so where do we start from? The whole flood disaster thing.
The floods are all over.
We hear on one hand on the pages of the Daily Trust, the front page, is talking about how there's this lack of preparation by government to evacuate or perhaps even plan for the flooding, right? No evacuation plan, no control management plan to address the issues. And in other news, we're also learning that the federal government has a plan to dredge River Benue to avert this disaster. In fact, the hydrological service is saying there's very little to worry about as far as the water level is concerned because they're still monitoring those situations. Isn't this a bit confusing with the whole flood thing? Because NIMET for weeks has been talking about 19 states that could largely face the flooding this year.
Yeah, you see, NIMET does its job very well. Around January, it tells you for the whole year, this is what we expect. So states, this is the pattern. Rainfall, this is it. And we expect that with that warning, which was very, very proactive, government should begin to take action. But we still wait. Now, when I say we Nigerians, including the government, see, where it is necessary, government should use its force. Please clear and move. But in clearing, there has to be some areas. When the same government will say move to higher plains or areas, where's the higher place in Bayelsa, for example? So we should be talking of creating new settlements. And if we're going to move out of some areas, then government should assist, provide facilities. And in that case, you also have to give land so free, so cheap for people to move in. And a situation we have where we have a continuous recycling of this disaster, it says a lot about also government inactivities or inaction. And the geologists or the environmentalists, geographers will tell you, because of too much human activities, the mud, the sand that has always been carried from every other smaller river all go into bigger ones. And at that point, they form kind of some sediments, they settle there, and the depth of the rivers have been reduced. So water is now spreading instead of moving in a deeper kind of a river. I'm sure if they were to test, the depth of River Niger in Lokoja the way they usually do, they will see that it has become a kind of too shallow because of sand, because of debris that are already covering some of these things. Now, some of them are man-made. Can't we do this dredging? When Yaradua started, it was stopped at the point. So what happened? Why is it that it has been stopped? So now, some people still talk about the need to harvest this rain. If you're talking of Labo Dam from Cameroon, they've always been giving this warning. They've already given. And it's even so short. They said within 7 days, we are releasing water. So what do you do? Unfortunately for those living in some valleys, if this rain comes dead night, the moment it's that rain, the water that has soaked you on bed, you open door, it flushes in. See, you are lost as to where's your way out. And most so in the depth of darkness, where do you move? So time has come that government should begin to bring the hammer to bear. And people too, look, life.
Are you talking about temporary relocation of the people, or is this something that we should do permanently? Especially some of these communities that are flood prone. It's not just going to be this year. Next year, we're going to expect the same thing. What is the permanent solution to this? Because from what we're seeing, most of the disbursement to the affected families from last year's flooding disaster, whether it's Bayelsa or in any other state, is happening just happened weeks ago.
Yeah, but we tend to know these things year in, year out. So when government is to take very harsh decisions, it does not matter the criticism. We're talking of like, okay, if you don't take a decision and people are dead, you are blamed. Okay, take the harsh one. We are relocating everybody. See, we've done road network, we've taken water there are boreholes, these are the places, and it's free of charge, and ensure it is done. If FCT is going around with bulldozers and pulling down houses, tell me how some places cannot be relocated. We're talking of ocean upsurge, water level is increasing, and therefore land is being submerged, houses are going. And so what will you be doing? They are seeing danger. It's like they say the lion is coming, say let it come, God will protect me. Well, it doesn't work that way.
Mr. Ben, well, I think it's easier said than done. When people when abandoning a place would mean abandoning your livelihood. Some of these persons are peasant farmers.
Yes, even the UN will say you cannot force people out of their natural habitat. But there has to be an exception. Every law must have an exception. If they said the moment we are here in the studio, nobody must run out when there's a live program going on. So what if there is fire outbreak now? We all continue to present. So there has to be an exception.
I get your point. Let us digress a bit into what's happening regionally. We see Algeria proposing a 6-month transition to resolve the Niger crisis. We hear AU has kicked against military invasion, and today we woke up with another coup in Gabon. What exactly is happening on the African continent?
I think there's a kind of, the political class is not giving, I said Nigeria, the Africans what they ought to have.
I think Nigerians also, it's okay. if you say-
If
because
you
Nigerians
mention-
are also Africans.
If
so
you mention Nigeria, I will not mention the other word.
Right.
That is a problem now that we are discussing. But I think that the military, even in Nigeria, will always tell you they are always better off in a civil setup because they can always talk to civilians. But when you talk of the command structure in the armed forces, I mean, it's hard for you to do that. But back to the issue. You see, when they said Niger, take 6 months and quit, if you check, who has also been backing Niger is the same Morocco. They've been backing
Algeria.
them. Algeria. They've been backing them. And if therefore they're saying take 6 months and go, I think the military should begin to think of something honorable, because the odds are so much against them. When they were, I mean, you see Nigerians, I mean, hoisting and holding flags of Russia. Now, the machinery, that commercial soldier that was supposed to be used, the Wagner group, you see, their leader and key officers, well, they died. How they died is another thing. Who done it, as it is always said? Who did that job? Nobody knows. But again, it is a way. If you check, Nigeria's Tinubu has also sent another, the same group that went to negotiate when the General Abdul Salami and the Sultan group was hindered from seeing the military. Now, Balalo is back again to Niger to negotiate with these people. So I believe that the military there should begin to see that, look, it will not be too rosy for them. It won't be too long for them for there to be a rebellion against themselves. Because a situation where constantly you can't send goods out of that place, neither are goods entering, and perishable items are actually going by their names. So when hunger strikes, you could have the gun.
You think they could lose their momentum, especially with the people?
Exactly.
If the sanctions persist?
If the sanction persists, of course, the hunger, I mean, within a day, you need to eat food. Now, if you block, it's already biting very, very hard over there. So I think that an opening is coming for this military. Take this and maybe, and the boy, go stay in some countries and Algiers probably, and earn a living there. The better.
And talking about the Congo situation, right? The elections.
Gabon.
In Gabon, I beg your pardon. The elections were already on shaky grounds, and the inevitable, so to say, happened because there was always going to be that chance that Ali Bongo wins yet another election. His father has been running the country from day one. He served in his father's administration. He was in fact Minister of Defense when his father died in 2009, and he became president ever since. And for the military stepping in, their words were very, let's just say it resonates with people in Gabon, for instance. This deteriorating economic situation in the country, and also this corrupt system within the electoral operations, where election after election, I remember in 2016 it was almost the same thing when he was quote-unquote re-elected. Give me your take on this one, because it seems to be one of those coups that is not only popular in Gabon, but it's also very popular from observers outside who are saying it's about time that someone, you know, does something about that situation.
Yeah, you see that the West will be very, very soft in that matter there, believing that this man has overstayed. He's been on stage for too long. His dance has lost texture. So people are tired of giving him marks. Therefore, when the Gabonese are kind of feeling the pains of that long kind of misrule, they are bound to complain. So if some people will come and say, fellow countrymen, we have affected this, in view of this, of course you see them jubilating. But the incoming regime, how far do you think they can go? Because look at what happened those days, even in Togo. There used to be Olympio. Olympio was so strong, he was good, but at the point, Eyadima overthrew him. So, and in fact, Olympio was killed. Then the son, Gilchrist, was feeling he should always campaign, he should always win an election there. And what will Ignace Yadima do? He pushed that guy out to Ghana. And each time there was a time for election, they will make a law. If you have not stayed in Togo for 6 months consecutively, you cannot contest. It was just to take care of
The opposition.
Olympio and the opposition. So it's always the thing. Look at what is happening in Cameroon. Since independence, 1964,
do you think
Paul Biya has been there. He helped to overthrow Amadou Ahidjo, and since then he's been there. It does not matter whether Cameroon is working or not.
It's all right. I hope, I wish we had time to continue to push on this. The narrative on the African continent is one of a divergent perspective. So sometimes it's not a straight-jacketed conversation. Something is desirable
and not forgetting of Wiki, who is now flying too flags.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
a test for
the
his
African
political career.
is very dynamic, if you like. And we will continue to unpack these developments as they happen. We will get more information around what's happening in Gabon because the government in power has not responded. We don't know what the true situation is. This announcement has been over the television, and we hope, as we get more development, we'll bring them to your doorstep. That's the much that we can accommodate today on this show. I want to thank you very much for always finding time to be here and gracing this program with your smile, regardless of what the economy.
Thank you very much.
The economy is
Perhaps
the most
immune to the
hopeful
economic.
people in Nigeria, in the world are Nigerians.
Perhaps Mr. Ben is immune to the economic situation. You never know.
Yes, he's operating somewhere above that threshold.
Exactly.
We will learn the tricks outside this
Just
place.
eat potato and smile. That's all. With potato, with palm oil, and live. That's all.
Right, that's the much we can bring today. As I said earlier, please stay tuned to Trust Television for all the interesting programs lined up for your day. If you have missed out on any of our show, please hook on to our social media handles on YouTube, on Instagram, and on Facebook. It's been a pleasure having you on the ride this morning. I am Sunday Michael Ogu.
My name is Abdullahi Ahmed. Thank you very much for watching. Good morning.